everyone, I'm Yvette Lloyd. Welcome to Life Her podcast. I am joined by a powerful and purpose driven Dr. Brian, and he is an amazing man. Also, he is called known as Dr. B. He's a keynote speaker, professor, author, and host of the Journey of Freedom and Living Bodily with Purpose podcast. And for over 20 years, he has helped people break free from what's holding them back and live with clarity, courage, and confidence. From the mindset of faith, finances, identity, Dr. B shows us exactly what is transformation works looks like to us and how it should be. Get ready for an inspiring and challenge empowering interview. Hey, Dr. B, how are you?
Man, I am doing so good, but if I was doing any better, I would be you. So as I know, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you and talk to you and just spend time. You're one of my favorite people. And so I can't wait to, hopefully that we're going to say some stuff. I know God's going to always ordain it. He's going to put it together. And, hopefully our time together will encourage, inspire, and help others to move and break through whatever it is they're going through.
Yes, for sure. I really appreciate you. I be watching your podcast a lot.
Oh,
And
cool.
it is so like informational, and the way you conduct your interviews is like awesome because you ask questions that I want to ask. So
Cool.
I don't be left in the dark
Yeah.
with nothing as far as watching your interview. So that's why I like watching it. Between you and John Hope Bryant, I got y'all benched.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so fun to just, sometimes we get to, we interview folks and we have guests, and then there's folks that just understand the things that you're going through and the questions that you're asking. And then, every now and then, it doesn't happen all the time, but we'll end up with a guest who, you're just so excited to have. Like, I had this guy who worked at the BSU at one of the historically Black colleges for 30 some years. And I think, oh man, I can't wait to ask him all these questions. And he's been retired for a little bit. And I'm like, you must have helped so many students. And he was one of those like one word answer, just a quiet, he made an impact, but he's not an interview person, right? Like, so you worked in the BSU. I know you must have helped a lot of students be able to
Right,
figure
right.
out their lives and stuff, right? Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any good stories? Yep.
Yep, sure do.
Could you please tell us one? At least one. I felt like it was a million questions that like, oh, I mean, it ended up being an okay interview, but at the same time, I'm like, and then you have the folks that you'll ask a question and you want to interact, but you can't interact because they don't even slow down long enough to take a breath, because I have all my guests tell their story. And sometimes their story is like, we're at 40 minutes here. You still at like 9 years old. So we need to over the head a little bit. Oh, but
Right, right,
amazing guests. Yeah, most of them are just, they're so good of what
right.
we get to interview. So, yeah.
So so since you mentioned that, I could move forward in one of my questions to you.
Okay.
And that is, how do you basically specialize in helping people get unstuck? What does the process of inner freedom look like? And what does someone even like, how do they begin?
Yeah, such a good question too, because obviously every individual is different in where they begin and where they start, and we sometimes um, we let the outside influences that have been in our life dictate who we are, who we're becoming. And some of those outside influences, whether you didn't grow up in the perfect home, or you didn't get the love that you thought that you needed, or you did, and then I wanted to be this basketball player and realized that I wasn't any good at it. It wasn't my calling. It wasn't my purpose. And so usually we'll start with that. We'll start how do you feel about yourself? And so many times people don't believe that they're enough. And I've come to believe that enough is a relationship with where you're at right now, not an amount. But the most of the people I talk to are like, I have to do this to be enough. or somebody told me if I did this, this, and this, if I go to school, if I get a good education, if I get a good job, then I'll be happy, and then that'll be enough. But if you're not living in your purpose and you're not living where God put you to do while you're here on this earth, then it's never going to be enough. And if you're always trying to please somebody else, it's not going to be enough. And so once you can start learning about who you are and where you belong and where you come from, that's our baseline where we get to start. And then that's where the fun begins, because now we start asking these series of questions. And sometimes they're not easy questions. They're not questions that people love to answer about their lives. Like when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror, what's the first thing you say to yourself? And sometimes it's like, I'm not enough, or I'm not, I don't believe that this is going to be a good day. And so I get to start, well, it's going to be a good day in every way, because the God who made this universe knows you by your name. But so many people don't believe that.
Wow.
They don't believe that they're enough to be able to go out there and conquer the world. And so once we can start walking through that and saying, all right, what is it you're good at? Well, I think I want to do this, this, and this. Okay. Have you ever done that before? Have you even done anything like that before? What makes you think you would be good at that? Oh, other people are good at it. What is it that you would do for free if you could do it
Mm.
every single day, all day long, and do that? I would play a video game. Well, that might not be what your gifting is in. That might be what your entertainment is in. What else?
Hey, if they use Twitch.
Oh my gosh. Oh, it is so fun to hear you. It's so fun to just kind of explore where people are at, because I'm about relationships. And as
Yeah.
soon as I get to know who somebody is, then I can begin to help them move forward. It's not a one size fits all formula, but I've been around long enough. I've just turned 60 years old a few months ago. And so, the experiences and the things that I've done in my life and the amount of people that I've been able to help. I've been coaching track and field for 38 years. There's one thing that I'm really good at, coaching track. And whether I've coached some Olympians, I've coached some elementary school kids, and I continue. We just won a state championship this last year at our high school here in Denver, Colorado.
Congrats.
And every time I get to just spend time with an athlete, and I realize, even though now it's tough to relate to a high school kid. I'm sorry. It's just, for those of you that are on my team and are listening to this, I'm doing my best. But high school, when I went to high school in 1983, is not anywhere. We didn't have internet. We didn't have all the things that you guys have to deal with, the social media, people making up stuff. I mean, we made up stuff, but it was like 5 people made it up, and everybody else, you know exactly what they were doing, right? And so, relating, because I feel like, oh man, these kids are getting, younger and younger. I'm like, oh no, it's just you, Brian. You're getting older. And so even like your vocabulary, this is fire, this is it. I'm like, what are you even talking about? I have no idea. But at the same time, once you start creating that relationship, because bottom down, in the depths of it, we want to be loved, we want to be cared for, we want to know that we matter. And if
Yeah.
we can get to that in anything that we do, and I'm going to show you that you matter, I'm going to listen to you. I got 2 ears and I got one mouth, and I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to find out what it is that you love to do and why you love to do it. And then those are the buttons that we're going to help you become successful at. So, hope that
Yes.
answers that question.
So before becoming a well-known Dr. B that we see today, what's the personal challenge you had to overcome, and how did that moment shift your mission and mindset today?
Wow. I wish I could just say it was one moment and then it switched and I was good to go. But I would when I was in elementary school, now I'm in third grade, I can't read. And nobody knows why I can't read.
Mm.
There's some things that I think, whether they say I have dyslexia now, and some other things that have been part of it. But I was pigeonholed into this special ed, curriculum that they had in the 1970s, that they really didn't understand, the things that they understand today as far as what could lead me and help me. And so that was kind of labeled as, okay, you're this kid who's not going to be anything. You're this person who's not going to make it. We're going to make it so that you have this great, this incredible life, or a life that works. but it's not going to be anything special. And my mom refused to believe that. My dad refused to believe that. And they tried some of the things that they were doing, but I was still labeled. I was still that special ed kid. I can remember, like, in high school, we get to high school and I have this, because all these teachers are going to save you, right? They know the answer. And so I have this English teacher, and they finally take me out of the trailer for most of the day. And now I'm in the mainstream classes, and she's going to teach me how to spell. And so she decides, well, you're going to stay after. But I said, I got football practice. I got, no, you for 1/2 hour after school every day, we're going to teach you how to spell. And I'm like, well, if you're really going to help me do this and I can be like the other kids, then this is going to be, I'll do it. I'll come after school every day. Well, I come after school every day, and then I would memorize the words and I would spell them right. And then I'd write them down in a paper a week later, and it would be wrong. It wouldn't even be close. The words were all jumbled up everywhere. And she just got so frustrated. She just kicked me out, told me I wasn't going to amount to anything, and just go, no, don't even go to college. Just here's some trade schools and you can go back to the trailer. And that was devastating to me as far as educationally, because I decided I wasn't going to go to college. I decided I was going to go be a stuntman in Hollywood. I happened to be a gymnast at that time and said, I can go be a stuntman. And then I found track and field. And I just, I happened to be, and I think what saved me is a really good athlete. And I was able to do things that other kids weren't able to do with my body, and be able to, run fast and get out of the way and that kind of stuff. And so I was popular with the other kids because I was able to do something that made them better. I wasn't popular because I was never in any of the same classes that they were. Although there were some of my friends, we were all in the same class together, that we hung out at the special ed trailer. And then so my mom, she convinced me, and this is crazy. This is the mentality of an 18-year-old, right? So you have some scholarship offers. You don't have to pass the ACT or the SAT because you're, considered special ed kid. So if you just take the test, you can go to college on a scholarship. So, son, if you go to college, because we really believe in education, then we will buy you a Jeep when you graduate. Because I wanted a Jeep at the time, just a regular Jeep. And I'm like, okay, I'll go to college. I mean, like, I'm going to college for 4 years of my life so that I could get a Jeep, but it got me to school. And there were some mentors and some people that were there, some coaches that helped me get through. They taught me, go sit down with every single teacher, tell them your situation, and they're going to be willing to help you get through this. And then I realized that this thing called technology started, where there was an internet, and there was, where there was spell check on a computer, and there was, I could say something to the computer and words would come out all spelled correctly. And so it kind of evened the playing field for me. I was able to get a degree in broadcast communications, and I got one in physical education, and became a teacher and coach. And then I got my master's in educational technology, where I could use that technology and teach other people how to do it. Finally got my doctorate in educational leadership. But that was one of those things that I realized, if I was around the right associations, I was around the right people that could direct me. And then I had a God who knew me by my name. I say that again, that there was nothing that was going to be able to stop me. And so I'm not going to say it was all easy and it was all fun and games and all, because it wasn't. But I can say it has been a wonderful life, knowing that the limitations that other people put on you aren't the limitations that you have to take with you.
Man, that is so true. Because it's like a lot of people do put limitations on you and they really don't be believing you. But long as you believe in yourself, and especially having that good boost of other people supporting you, that helps a lot.
Oh gosh, it's everything. Associations are everything. And if you don't have good associations in your life right now, you need to find some that are, because there are so many people that are willing to take you and help you and lead you through. And sometimes we just stick because it's familiar to us. We'll stick with people who put us down all the time. We'll stick with people who tell us that we're not enough and that we can't. And you have to separate yourself from those people. And sometimes those people are your family. And you don't get to choose your family, but you
Yeah.
do get to choose how much time you spend with them, especially if you're older. Now, if you're 7 years old and watching this, then no, you got to spend as much time with your family as you're going to. But most of you are adults now. and you can curb that time, that the amount of time that you spend with some of your family members and the people, and then go do something special and then come back and help them. You
Yes.
know.
Yes. So one of the great things that I noticed that you focus on is the five pillars of faith, finances, trust, health, and identity. Can you break down each one that plays a role in a person's journey towards freedom?
Absolutely. It is, our identity is who we are. I just finished a book that'll come out this month. It's called Be Do Have, and it's all about becoming the person that God put you on this earth to do. Then you get to do, then you get to have. And we spend so much time trying to have. And I'm gonna go get this. There was a time when I just thought I was the end all of end all, and I'm gonna, I'm working at the high school. I'm working at the university. They asked me to come in and be a special teacher for 2 years at the university on technology stuff. So I go buy myself a BMW. And so I go to the BMW dealer, and I don't just show up with the 3 Series or even the 5 Series, right? Because they convinced me at the dealership that I need the 7 Series because I'm that guy, right? Well, I'm not that guy who should have a BMW 7 Series used, whatever it was. With at that time, this is before cell phones, right? So, but it had like a phone that was in the console because right at the beginning of it, and it was like $1.50 a minute to talk on the phone. So I didn't even connect it. But I can remember like driving around the parking lot at the university like 3 times before I would park and pretend like I was on the phone. Like I had to have this persona of I've made it, which I hadn't, and I didn't deserve the car, but I didn't become that person yet that had that identity that deserved to be driving that car. And so it was just this facade, this mess up. And then I said, well, I got to go do all this stuff now to be able to make sure I can afford this car because it's got this hefty payment on it now. And so now I'm spinning all my wheels trying to impress other people, to do all these things, to have all these things, and I haven't become that person. And so when we think about identity, identity is being congruent with the person that you know that you are. And then we have to continue to increase our identity based on the people that we hang out with, the things that we do, the places that we go, the books that we read, all the personal development stuff that we don't do all the time. And then we all start with an identity, and our identity is probably what most folks told us who we were. Then I went to a trust seminar, a guy named David Horsager, and I've interviewed him on my show. But he's probably like one of the world's foremost people on beginning with trust and understanding trust. And I go to this seminar, there's 400 or 500 people in the room. And then I look around the room, and there's like 30 people of color in the room. And I'm like, this is great information. Why is my community not here? Why this circle of people don't want us to get and learn this and do this? And why is it that because especially as Black men, we don't trust ourselves very, we have struggles with that. We don't trust our women. We don't trust the only person we do trust is our mom, but then we don't trust the people around us. We don't trust our friends. We don't trust the community. We don't trust our work. And we have this issue with trust. And I'm like, well, this solves a lot of it if we could get this information. And I came back and I started thinking, how many things have to begin with us being able to trust before that we can move forward? And then trust became one. And then when I started talking about, health, the average African American in our culture, well, especially for men, is like we live to 72. And I'm thinking, well, I'm getting ready to be 60. Or that time I was probably 56 or something like that. I said, no, I got to live a lot longer. This is getting good. This is fun. What do we do with our health? Why are we not doing this? So I have a whole series on diabetes and all the things. I'm realizing that I heard a statistic last night that said 1 out of 3 teenagers are pre-diabetic. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's almost
Wow.
2 out of 3 African Americans that are pre-diabetic. And I'm like, oh my God, we have to do something about our health. We have to be putting the right stuff in our body. What is that right stuff? The things that worked on the plantation, that we love, that we think tastes so good, that is good for us, is not, that was because that was what was left over. It wasn't because it needed to be a delicacy. And I understand it. And I'm not saying don't eat some of those things. I'm just saying, if you want your body to work and if you want to be healthy, that's one of the things you need to be able to do. Money. Oh my gosh. We could have several shows about how we think about money and our relationship with money and how money has impacted the way that we think. I mean, just me and my BMW story tells you I had no clue about money. I go to college and they have these desk tables, and this, I don't know if this happens anymore because everything's online, but we had like Sears and JC Penney's and Woolworths and Visa and MasterCard. They had all these tables that were lined up on the walkway where you go to get your meal, all asking you to sign up for their credit card. I didn't have a
Mm.
job when I first went to college, right? My parents weren't giving, didn't, give me all this money. And so I was signing up for credit cards. I thought it was like part of my, hey, they're on the school campus. It might as well be part of my scholarship, right? It's part of me being able to do that. So I get my Sears card. My dorm room looks so good. My roommate is like, where are you getting all this stuff? I'm like, Sears, I got this card. They let me have it all. And then like the next month came and they said, Brian, you have to make a payment. I'm like, I didn't graduate. They're like, no, you bought this stuff right now. You got to pay for it right now. And so just our relationship with money and what we know about money and investing and all the things that will allow us to feel comfortable. We talk about finance a lot in those pillars. So trust, faith, identity, health, and what's my last one? Trust, faith, identity, health, finance. I think I got them all. So
Yeah, you did. You got him.
oh my gosh. But yeah, so I spent a lot of time talking, and then a lot of the things I'm doing now is based on the Be Do Have. My first book was called There Is No Tiger. And
Oh,
There
yeah.
Is No Tiger is about back in the caveman days, the tigers would actually eat people. And so
Mm,
there'd have to be somebody who would stand out in front of the cave and at
wow.
nighttime, a centurion, and make sure that we weren't getting eaten by a tiger. Well, we fast forward that to today. There's not too many tigers running around New York City or Denver or LA or anything like that are going to eat
Right.
you. But we allow those tigers in our life to stop us from achieving. Say I know I got to do a presentation or public speaking. They say that's one of our greatest fears. Well, fear is something that's going to happen to you right now. Anxiety and the tiger that jumps on you is how you think people are going to think about you if you go speak. Because there's no tiger going to eat you. There's nothing that's going to stop you from living by standing up on a stage, although you almost believe that it is. And so it's all about what are some things that we can do so those tigers in our life don't eat us and stop us from achieving the greatness that God has put in us and our ability to do. And so that was a super fun book to write and just, talk because it came from my special ed world of, hey, I can't do anything. I'm not worthy of doing anything. People have
Yeah.
told me this all my life, and now I'm scared to even try. And so,
Mm.
what are some things? What can I just breathe through it? Well, maybe, but there's some other things that we have to start believing about ourselves and things that we need to start thinking, realizing that there's no tiger going to eat you, and most of the things that you worry the most about.
What about your book, The Decision Formula?
Yes, so the decision formula, um, that one is going to come out in September. I did the Be Do Have before that. That's going to come out. So the
Okay.
decision formula is cool because it's the 5 things on how we make decisions that are going to change our life. And what are the things that you go through to make great decisions, the things that you think about or should be thinking about, and there's a God factor in there, like, that can supersede all of those decisions, but the different little, the nuances in do I do a Franklin T? Do I put the pros and then do I put the cons? And if those pros and cons, am I thinking, if this is going to be a life decision? What if, what if it doesn't work? And then
Yeah.
my question is, what if it doesn't? Then you go back home, right? Your life isn't over by making the decisions. But what if you don't make that decision and you don't try it? Then you spend your whole life wondering, what if? What if I would have done this? What if I could have just
Mm.
made sure that I did this? And so that one was super good because I think about the biggest decisions I made in my life and how I made that decision. So I have a whole formula that you give yourself points. And if your points are above like 60 to 70, you need to go for it. You need to do it. You need to try it. You need to make it happen. And the worst thing that could possibly happen is It didn't work. So I had to, I can't, not that you have to come back home and live with your mom in her basement. I'm not saying that. But let's say you move across country. Well, I can't move across country. Why? Well, because then if I move across country, what if, it doesn't work out? Then how am I going to move back? Well, how did you get to move across?
Right, right.
It's like the things that we play in our mind on all these scenarios of the what could happen. And then, just there's some simple things that you should do when you're making your decision, that you should, who are you talking to? Who are your confidants? Now, if your confidant is somebody that you're relying on that makes terrible decisions, how did they get to be the person who's helping you make this one? Like you watch them their whole life and they haven't made one good decision and they keep making one after bad, and you're gonna go ask them, should I do this?
Mhm.
What qualified them to help you make, should I buy this car? Okay, well, one, can you afford it? And then what does that mean to afford it? And two is how is it going to enhance your life? If you're
Yeah,
going to be an Uber driver or you're going to be a Lyft driver, or and that you need your car to get around and people getting in it, then it's an important investment. If you
yeah.
take the bus most of the time, you're just going to sit in the garage, you might not need it at all. So it's thinking through some of those things.
Yes, and it matters. And speaking of thinking, you said the freedom begins in the mind, and I resonate towards that a lot because a lot of people don't understand the strength that your mind can have. With your mind could, like, your body and everything starts to react to whatever you're thinking, and it like affects your path in so many ways, even if it's positive or negative. So the mind shifts of non-negotiable for someone ready to rewrite their story. What are some of the ways on how you could help someone or someone can be helped?
Well, the Bible says, "As a man thinketh, so is he." And so when we really start thinking of the power of what we can do with ourselves, and I like to break it down sometimes when I think about contributing factors and I think about deciding factors. And those contributing factors are those factors that are outside of us that we can't control, the things that happen in our life that no matter what I'm 7 years old and my dad throws me in a swimming pool and I don't know how to swim and I'm freaking out and it's traumatizing and all those things. I can't control that. But that doesn't have to be the deciding factor that I've decided I'm going to learn how to swim now, or I'm not going to let that trauma from that portion of my life dictate every time I get around water, or every time I try to do stuff. And I mean, that's just a very simplified example of the power that we have and the things that we say, and like, what are you saying to yourself when you get up in the morning that you can do or you can't do? What does that look like? And and people say, well, affirmations never help me. And I'm not saying affirmations in the way, hey, tomorrow, my affirmation is tomorrow I'm going to make $1 million. Well, tomorrow you're not going to make $1 million. Now, it might take a year or 5 years. I'm not saying in your lifetime you're not going to make $1 million, but if you haven't become that person that is capable of making $1 million, like you're holding up a sign on the street right now saying I'll work for food, and then you say, I'm making $1 million. I'm making $1 million. I'm making $1 million. That's, I'm not saying that's not beginning that process, but now your mind has to start catching up with the things that you're telling it, and now the activities that you do have to be in congruence. I think Tony Robbins said the most powerful force in the universe is being congruent with the identity that you hold for yourself. And so that identity has to continue to change, but it's not going to, like I talked about earlier, your associations and the people that you hang around is a huge factor in your ability to move forward. I just interviewed a guy named Chris Johnson who just did this. He won the Shark Tank, and he created this like top ramen thing that you put in your microwave so it doesn't taste like microwave, it tastes like top ramen. And he's built several $1 million companies, and he did it early in his life. And he's, what's so fantastic with Chris to me is the stuff that he teaches his kids to say about themselves as they go. His kids don't believe there's nothing they can't do. And it's because he's been pouring into him. But not only did he pour into him, he showed him, he said, I'll give you anything that you want in this world. You just have to earn it. And
Mm,
then they come to him and say, well, Dad, how can I earn it? And then he goes through this
nice.
mental process of teaching them this is what it would take to earn it. So his son was able to write like a joke book that ended up on CVS stores. And his son at 14, I think he said his very first paycheck at 14 was like $259,000 for a book that CVS took and started.
Crazy.
I know, but that's the power of what the mind is able to do. Whatever we can conceive, whatever we can believe, but there has to be action that's put behind it. And I think that's where people get stuck most is they say, "Well, I can just say it, but it's empty in the saying." Well, it probably is at first. And so, what are the things that we can do that will build upon those steps, right? Do. Now we can end up being able to achieve. I mean, you're a great example of that same process of thinking and saying this is what I can do and starting out small. You didn't start with a whole building of a daycare that worked forever, right? That was a progression
Right.
because you got to be around people that fed into you that it's possible. You started believing that it was possible. Now your actions took a hold of the things that you were believing, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, you look back and go, what just happened? How did
Mhm.
you know? But yeah, if you would have just said, I'll have a daycare that takes up a whole building tomorrow, that first day, you would have got discouraged because it wasn't going to happen tomorrow. And I think that's a part where people just realize it is a process, and God doesn't do that. God helps us along the way, but I guess the people who win the lottery, they get it right away, but then they lose it, right? Because they haven't become that person that can handle it, that can do it.
That is so true. So what inspired the 7-minute mindset series, and how can short and daily messages truly shift someone's trajectory?
Well, we are what we put into our mind, just like we just talked about on mindset. And so,
Yeah.
what is the first thing that and I'm asking you rhetorically, what is the first thing that you do every single morning when you get up? I hope it's not pick up this device and let somebody else influence the things that are happening in the morning, because the things that you say to yourself and where you're going, that first 7 minutes, that first 10 minutes, I get up every morning now and I do a 3 mile walk and I try to jog and that kind of stuff, but that's my meditation time. That's my prayer time. That's my listening to book time. That's my just thinking about my day. Is my phone with me? 'Cause if I record a video, it's with me because I'm recording a series on diabetes right now. But other than that, I'm not. I don't haven't checked one message. I haven't reacted to one thing probably for the first hour and a half that I'm awake every single morning. I am being proactive and saying I'm feeding me. I'm feeding my mind. I'm feeding. And so the 7 minute daily mindset series is literally based on here's 7 minutes of affirmation, 7 minutes of thinking mindset things that are going to change who I am and my trajectory and what's possible instead of reacting to what other people are telling me. I only check email twice a day. I can't do it. I have somebody that's in my life now that's my assistant that checks because it's not even a communication tool, it's an information tool, and everybody wants to communicate, and they could steal. Not only could they steal your day, they can steal your joy, because if
Yeah.
all you do is spend your time reacting, then when do you have time to become that person who can do what you've actually believed that you can do?
Yes. So with your background, and how you had like difficulties as far as your academics in the early stages. So now that you're older, how do you wear so many hats of becoming a professor, author, coach, and a podcast host? Like, how do you stay grounded and aligned and keeping yourself confident with everything that you're doing?
I think it's a lot of it is the God I serve, and I talk about that a lot. But the other part of it is you once you start experiencing stuff and you start experiencing win after win after win, where you know that you can do it, then the next time you do it, it's that much easier. And I realized that there's so many people who think like let's give podcasting as an example. The average person who does a podcast or starts a podcast never reaches 10 episodes. Some of them barely even won't reach 3 episodes of a podcast, right?
You're right about that.
And then Then and you ask them, well, why didn't you do more episodes? Well, because nobody was watching it. I wasn't good at it. And then I ask them, well, what have you done in your life that you did 10 times and you were good at it? Like, name one thing that you did 10 times. You weren't even good at brushing your teeth doing 10 times. You're just not. And so, what made you think that you would start a podcast and all of a sudden that you would be great at it? And
Mhm.
so there's got to be some perseverance in there. There's got to be people that you're surrounding yourselves with. There's got to be encouragement that's part of it. Because if you're trying to do this alone, whatever it is you're trying to do, it's going to be very difficult to do. And then you start beginning to do it. And I would say for me, and the reason that I can do all those things is because I I keep trying. I'm willing to fail. I know failure is part of it. And so there's going to be some things even today that I'm going to do and I'm going to fail at it. But it's not going to be because I didn't put in the effort, I didn't put in the time, and I didn't put in the perseverance that goes with it. It just means it wasn't, the thing that God had me to do. And I always also think this is what is he preparing me to do? Like this
Yeah.
isn't good, but what am I learning through this that's going to propel me to the next thing that I'm doing. And then really it all comes back down to relationships. I'm not going to lie. Everything that I do well has to do with relationships and helping people in their
Yes.
relationships. And so whether I'm doing a living trust or I'm doing a mortgage or I'm doing, like we're doing here in podcasting, I can't do a podcast and not create relationships. That would just be insane to me. Although there are people out there that, that'll go out there and they don't even listen. They just want to talk the whole time. And they,
Yep.
and you're like, well, how do you create a relationship with somebody and you've never even listened to anything that they say? You know, um, and so I think that is, I guess, the key. People, oh, you're energetic and you're not, you're always a bubbly and you're always happy. Well, because I choose to be bubbly and I
Yes.
choose to be happy. That's what it is.
I mean, what the heck?
I get up and it's like I choose this is going to be a great day, and I look for things, and that reticular activator system that's in there is looking. I struggle with customer service folks that just read because they don't ever listen to you. All they're doing is reading the next script, and then I even try to develop relationships when I ask them, "Well, how are you doing?" And they say, "Well, according to this script," you're like, yeah, we find me a supervisor, somebody, so I ask you how you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I ain't ask AI, I'm asking you.
I'm asking you, you're giving me this response. What can I help you with? Well, maybe my job today is just to make your day. Somebody asked me
Yeah.
last week or on my podcast, they said, "How do you measure impact?" And I said, "You know what? How I measure impact or I think about impact is when I walk out of my door and I interact with somebody. If their life is better because I was in it, that's impact. It might
Yeah.
be the impact of just they feel better for 5 minutes, or it might be the impact of they were down and out and they were able to take that encouragement that I gave them and change the world with it. Either way, it's impact because I was obedient and I went out and I with the purpose of how am I going to make your day better? And you do that, you can't be sad, you can't be unhappy, you can't walk around with this sad face all day long. If you are serving others and making their days better, then that's going to reciprocate to you, and then people are going to just do stuff that you go like, whoa, where did that come from? you know so I guess
Yeah.
that's how I get to do all the wonderful things, and it's not enough, right? Because I just want to do more. Like, I'm 60 and I can't wait for the next 20 years of my life because it's going to be so much better than the last 20 years.
You know, one of the things that, brought to my attention of what you said is, people saying that you're, like, happy and bubbly and stuff like that, and it actually it's a part of this question that I have for you, and it's really is how important is joy and playing in the process of healing and growth, because a lot of people may look at you and say you're so bubbly and everything, but in all honesty, they're not healed in certain places in their personal life for them to feel the same way that you feel, and it's hard for them to actually understand it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that comes when I was talking about those contributing factors and those determining factors, is helping people understand that they are pretty much in control of their destiny, you
Yes.
know? And, uh, there's so many folks that spend so much time worried about what other people think of them. It would be hard to be a teenager today, um,
Oh, difficult.
oh my gosh, when I think of the social media and I think of what they see as examples, and then they get on and they start scrolling and they start watching people's best life. And somehow, even though logically they understand that that can't be every day of somebody's life, I think subconsciously they think that person is living that life every day. And why can't I do that? Not
Mhm.
realizing if you were able to go spend a week with that person, you would realize that you are incredibly blessed because they're putting out their best life. And
Yes.
people willing, a pastor taught me this about 20 years ago, and I've lived my life by it. And he said, hurting people hurt people. Hurting
Yes.
people hurt people. And if you can find out why they're hurting and help them through the hurt, then they won't hurt you ever again. And so when somebody comes to me and they're upset or they're unhappy or they're lashing out or they're telling me that I'm no good or they're telling me, I look at, sometimes I look at them like, what's hurting you right now? Well, because you and me, if I did something wrong, I apologize, and but you're just lashing out, let's get to the bottom of it because I don't want you to feel this way anymore. That you have to lash out at me at this, and I look at people so much differently when they go through something like you said, this despair, this I can't, I'm not enough. How am I going to
Yeah.
live through life? I'm like, you are hurting, and how do we help you get through that? And it might be something like therapy. I'm not a non-proponent of therapy. I'm not a non-proponent of getting help. I'm not, do I think there's other things you can do that can help you? Absolutely. Find coaches, find people in your life. Don't try to do it by yourself. But at the same time, until we address that hurt, it's always going to be tough. It is, and
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna drive people away because you're gonna lash out in ways that they're not gonna wanna be around you. They're not gonna wanna hang out with you, and then you're gonna think that there's something wrong with you, and or you're gonna just put the mirror on, you're gonna say something's wrong with them. They're bad people, they're evil people because 'cause they're not doing what you need them to do. So,
Mhm. So, if your life had a personal mission statement today, what would it be?
what would my personal life be? Yeah, I keep coming back down because it's a song that's in my head all the time that it's gonna be a great day in every way because the God who made the universe knows you by your name. I think that is resonating with me so much right now. And then also, let me help you become the person that God put you on this earth to be. And if you can become that person, man, what you're going to be able to do to serve others is just going to be unbelievable. And the joy and everything else that you're looking for will come through that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
See, look at you over there, Dr. B.
Oh man.
Over there giving people a razzle and dazzle.
Razzle dazzle, the fun stuff, the things that make me wake up in the morning and excited about, and they're fun to talk about because they're part of who I am, right? They're part of
Yeah.
what you can see in other people when you start coaching and you start helping and you find somebody. God loves you and He wants you to have everything, and He just wants you to know that. But at the same time, you can't do this by yourself. So
Man,
many people try.
seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. It shows how wealthy you are.
I can have 2 dimes in my pocket and
Man,
be one of
listen.
the wealthiest men on this planet because of the relationships and the people. Because when I think of it, I'm not gonna, if I end up on a deathbed, I hope that one day I just go up to heaven and we're all done, or I go to sleep one night and then I just don't wake up. But if I am on my deathbed and I'm thinking about my life, I don't see myself thinking about how much money I made or what am I going to do with the funds that are in my accounts. I'm going to be thinking about those impacts, those relationships, the people that I love, the people that love me. What are they going to say at my funeral if they're talking about my dash, the dash between the year I was born in 1965 and the year that I passed away? Maybe it's in 2085 and I'm 120 years old or whatever it is. But yeah, what did I do that made a difference and an impact? That's what I'm going to be dwelling on.
Mhm.
It's not going to be on
Man,
the stuff. Yeah.
I feel that 100%.
Cool. Cool, cool.
Yes, indeed. So how can people get in contact with you, utilize your services, purchase your book, listen to your podcast? How can they just connect with Dr. V?
Yeah, the easiest way right now, there's two places. One is the bryanearnold.com. Bryanearnold.com is my website. Everything connects there. And then if you're really looking for a community, we're starting this community this month. It's called Becoming the Person Universe. And Becoming the Person Universe is going to be about helping people in all walks of life become that person that God is intending them to be. We're going to have so many relationship rooms and places where you connect people. I just came up with one today. I'm going to have a coffee shop, the virtual coffee shop, where your goal is to do 5 or 6 one-on-ones every single month. Just, coffee, 5-minute coffees with somebody where you just connect. And then we're going to have places where you will be able, whatever it is that you do, there will be something there that's for you. And so that's becoming the person, becomingtheperson.com. You go there. And so if those two places, you will get everything you need from me. You'll even be able to connect with me. For those that join, whenever you're seeing this, you will be up and running. You'll get a copy of my book, Be Do Have book as well. So it's going to be, that's what I'm most excited about now, as far as how I'm going to help other people be able to do some of the things that I've been able to do. So
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Dr. B. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. I can't wait to spend more time with you. Can't
Yeah.
wait to jump out there into the Ohio area. Yeah, I don't even know nothing about the East Coast, but it's not even East Coast. You're kind of like in the middle somewhere. But I just can't wait to spend some more time with you, and then we just do some stuff together that's gonna change the world even more than the impact that you're already making. So thank you for having me on and allowing me to just talk about what I love.
Yes. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Life Heard Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and also listen to Life Heard Podcast on all major platforms.